friends, and welcome to the CUInsight Network. My name is Robbie Young, and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth here at CUInsight. It's my job on this show to have conversations with thought leaders who support the credit union community. We'll identify issues affecting credit unions and discuss best practices that help us all learn from one another and strengthen our credit union ecosystem. My guest on today's show is John Findlay, CEO of LemonadeLXP. Thanks so much for being here, John.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So to jump right in, most of us didn't think that we would work with credit unions when we grew up. What did you want to be?
Well, I'm a Canadian guy, so I wanted to be a hockey player. But it turned out that I wasn't really as good at hockey as the guys in the NHL, so I had to get a real job.
Well, I think that's just rude of them to make you get a real job.
Yeah, it was devastating, but I'm over it now.
Well, I'm glad you've gotten past it. You seem to have done quite well. So what was the journey like to get to your current role as CEO at LemonadeLXP?
It was circuitous. So I was one of those kids that caused his parents to pull their hair out because I was a terrible student. And they would say to me, your marks are terrible. You're not going to get into college. You won't get a job. And I would say, but I'm not going to have a job. And they would go, oh my God, this kid's crazy. Because I always knew I wanted to be self-employed. I didn't know how or what industry or anything. I just knew that that was my journey. And I knew that when I was quite young. And so I started a business right out of high school and did that for a while, then did a couple of other businesses, sold one of my companies, and then I started a company called Launchfire back in 1999, and we were the first guys doing digital gamification before it was a word. We built promotion microsites with games and contests to educate consumers to get them to buy stuff. And what happened was we ran a promotion for MBNA for their college campus credit card promotion, and they got acquired by TD. So the VP of marketing became the head of digital for TD. And he called us one day and said, you know what our challenge is? Not enough of our customers are using our online and mobile banking. What can you guys do to help us? And we didn't think a promotion made sense because it reaches a national audience. But the folks who weren't using the technology, where were they? They were coming into branches and calling contact centers. So we said, why not get your front line to promote it? And he told us that staff didn't need to bank with their employer at TD, which is the case at most financial institutions. So we realized there was a problem there. It was a training problem. And so the first iteration of LemonadeLXP we built was for TD Bank to drive digital fluency amongst frontline staff. And when that was successful, we realized every financial institution had that problem. So we brought a product to market specifically to solve that problem. And since then, it's grown into an all-in-one learning and knowledge platform. But that's how I got there.
I like it. So to pull on that a little bit more, can you tell us about LemonadeLXP and where and how they add value for credit unions?
Absolutely. So there's a few challenges that credit unions face that we're helping address. The first one, looking at it specifically from an L&D lens, learning and development folks at credit unions have one non-negotiable, and that is running compliance training. That absolutely has to be done. The next thing is the industry has fairly high turnover, so onboarding new staff is a very high priority. So with those two things taking up the top of the priority set, it leaves little time and resources for training frontline staff on things that will actually help grow the business, driving deposits, loans, whatever. So our platform empowers learning teams with two things: AI-powered course authoring that you can put your source material into and it automatically generates interactive courseware, and then an engaging learning experience to actually get staff to take that training. So that's the first piece. The next piece is on the knowledge side. What happens is a lot of folks are saddled with old knowledge-based technology like SharePoint and stuff like that. And the problem is it's hard to find information in there, so staff don't use it. And part of it is that, naming convention is so important. So if I call something a holiday policy, but you go search for it as vacation policy, it won't come up. So LemonadeLXP also has a knowledge base that you can drag and drop your source materials, think like products, product information, policies and procedures, regulatory information, that kind of stuff. and staff can then ask it question in the flow of work, and it will answer. It'll synthesize answers. So if I say I have a member coming in and wants to talk about mortgages, how can I do it in KYC compliant way? It'll give you the answer synthesizing from multiple documents. So we're helping take a lot of the weight off those subject matter experts who typically get bombarded with questions. So those are two of the ways that we're helping out add value for credit unions.
So that institutional knowledge loss is a growing challenge for credit unions. How should leaders rethink learning and development to better capture, retain, and activate that knowledge across their teams?
It's an awesome question. And it's something we hear from our customers all the time about sort of the brain drain as folks retire and move on from the credit union. So a few things. If you can get them to document chunks of their knowledge, that documentation can then be put into the AI engine, and it will generate both learning content and knowledge-based stuff that staff can ask questions. So that's a great way to capture that knowledge. And there's also the ability to assign them mentorship, so they can mentor other staff members while they're still at the credit union. And that's a really valuable way to get some of that knowledge transfer going. And we're also launching some new features within LemonadeLXP that's going to allow folks to ask questions of everyone on the staff. And then people can answer those questions within a thread, sort of like a modern version of Reddit, but that's proprietary to your credit union. So I could ask a question, and then several people might answer that question, but then other staff members will vote on which answers, and the answers that get the most votes or the most likes move up to the top position. So that knowledge bubbles to the top. And so we're trying to roll out features that will allow for that knowledge transfer so that we're not losing that as staff members retire or move on to other roles.
I like that, especially as you described it like Reddit, because we know that there is so much valuable information shared through forum style learning like that.
It's like staff sourcing your learning.
Right. I like it. Many credit unions rely on traditional LMS platforms focused on course completion. What's missing from that approach, and how can credit unions shift toward truly measuring and improving knowledge retention and performance?
Well, what's missing from the traditional LMS is fun. And then the result of it not being fun and not being entertaining in any way is engagement. You don't often hear a staff member at a credit union say, "I'm so excited for compliance training this year." And that's not just the fault of the source material, because let's face it, regulatory stuff is kind of boring, but it's also how it's delivered. And I think that's what we've really focused on, is creating a learning experience that staff actually enjoy. And by creating something that they enjoy and they actually want to participate in, you improve knowledge retention, you improve comprehension, and that can impact performance. We're actually just starting to work on a couple of projects with credit union customers that are using Snowflake, which is like a data lake. And so Lemonade connects with Snowflake, and then we can connect their system to Snowflake so that we can see what specific business metrics are being impacted. So ultimately what we'll be able to look at is staff members who took this specific set of courseware are outperforming staff members who didn't in these key metrics. So then we can say, well, let's get the rest of the staff to take those courses. So being able to create a cause-effect relationship and be able to report on that, it says this training is actually driving that business outcome. And that's where I think new technology really has a significant advantage over the LMS, because most LMSs can't do that. But I think that's where we're all headed, and that's where we want to get to, and even learning wants to get there, because if they can prove a positive impact on ROI metrics, then they have more of a seat at the table in discussions on how to grow the credit union, and that will impact budgets and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really important element.
Yeah, you certainly can't call it gamification if it's not fun, right?
That's right. Fun is a really important element. Like the example I always give is when my son was 3, I took him to a hockey rink to teach him how to skate because, of course, I'm Canadian. And he promptly sat on his butt and started crying. And I kept trying to pick him up and get him to skate, and he just wouldn't. And then I realized, oh, this is my mistake. So I took my hat off and I said, hey, Jackson, I bet you can't get my hat. What did he do? He clambered to his feet, fell over a million times trying to get the hat, but in 30 minutes, the kid could skate. And it's because he was no longer learning. He was playing a game. And part of that was needing to be able to skate to be able to play it effectively. So he acquired the skill while having fun doing something else.
Gosh, who knew that's what I was doing to my kids this whole time? So you've said the member experience starts with the employee experience. How can credit unions better connect their learning strategies to frontline performance and ultimately deliver a more consistent, high-quality member interaction?
Yeah, so I think it starts with like, now that you have the power of AI, it starts with clearly defined standard operating procedures, clearly defined product information and service information that goes into the AI knowledge base. Because once it's in that knowledge base, you have unprecedented distribution capabilities. You can author learning content that you can distribute to staff. You can take author learning content that you actually distribute to members through the member education portal. And then you've also got it in the knowledge base where staff can ask questions. So when you're talking about frontline performance and making sure that the member experience is consistent across all branches and all touch points, having a better trained staff who also have access to a single source of truth in the flow of work. When their member has a question they can't answer, they can ask that knowledge base, and it's going to be one source of truth consistent across the branch network. That's how you improve that member experience and make sure that it's consistent. And then driving the frontline performance follows because they've got better training and they've got better support.
So true. You mentioned AI and how it's really reshaping learning and onboarding. What does that look like in practice for credit unions, and where are the biggest opportunities right now?
Well, for learning and knowledge, I think the biggest opportunities are what I just talked about, this ability to distribute knowledge consistently across geographically disparate network of branches and people. I think that's been such a challenge. In a lot of cases, historically, you might have instructor-led training where you bring people to a central location and you train them, or you had sent someone out to the branches and they did a train the trainer. But if you've ever played telephone game, you know the message can change as you move on down the line. So I think AI gives this incredible ability to react very quickly to changes in the industry because the regulations are changing all the time. The credit union space is evolving quickly. And so AI gives, in the old days, it's like, okay, we need to create a training course on this new thing that's changed. That could take 2 weeks to 2 months. With AI, it can be 1 day. That's huge. So you're able to react to changes very quickly. And those changes might be in your products or services, but it could also be you're rolling out, you're going through a conversion, or you're rolling out new payment stack or whatever. You can now generate training and knowledge immediately so that you're ready on day one when that change happens. That's a huge advantage over how we've done it traditionally. Those are big opportunities. But then the other one is when we speak to onboarding. So currently you might, the onboarding program might be 2 weeks, it might be 6 weeks, whatever, but you're bombarding that new person with so much information, especially in the financial services space, where not only do you have to understand the products and services and the SOPs, but you got to understand all the regulatory framework that you have to operate within. That's a lot to take on. And then you have to understand the digital capabilities. So it takes a long time to train those folks. Well, now you can reduce the amount of upfront training because you have that support in the flow of work where I can ask questions. So I can actually get on the front line a little sooner because I know I have consistent support available instantly on demand. So it's having a significant impact on onboarding. We've been able to, and for a number of customers, shrink onboarding by over 50% in terms of the time it takes. So big impact there.
Wow, that's amazing, especially the timing that's changed for organizations that you work with. So as we look to the future, what is Lemonade LXP's focus on the road ahead?
Yeah, so we work only with financial institutions and we intend to continue that path. And as part of that process, we've actually democratized our development roadmap. So we have a thing called Product Board where we invite our customers to submit feature requests, things that they wish the platform would do. And then when we start a new development sprint, we ask our customers to vote on them and we develop the things that they want. So in that way, the financial industry is shaping the platform. They're telling us exactly what they need to solve their business problems. So, for example, one new thing that we brought out was an AI conversations tool. So in our authoring tool, within a minute or two, you can create a member persona. So let's say it's Robbie who has two young kids and is coming in to talk about auto loans. And so I build the persona and then it generates an AI bot that the learner actually speaks to, actually talks to the computer and says, "Hi, Robbie, thanks for coming in. How can I help you today?" And then you say what you're looking for. And I have to guide that conversation to a point where I can elegantly recommend the right product and solution. And then it gives me feedback on how well I did. Did I recommend the right products? Was I too salesy? Did I adhere to regulatory requirements? That sort of thing. So that's an example of what we heard from our credit union customers was we want a better trained frontline staff to have those member conversations and to provide member service and recommend the right products at the right time. So we reacted by building an AI coaching module that will help people get there. And so what's in store for us in the future is more of that, more of listening to our customers and listening to the market and building solutions that solve real business problems.
I love that. And I love how you let your customers really shape where you're going. It's such a, proactive way to make sure that you're really delivering what they truly need.
Yeah.
So to wrap up the show, we like to have some fun with some rapid fire questions to really let our listeners get to know you better. The questions are rapid, but your answers certainly don't have to be. Do you think you're ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So who is someone in your life that is a great leader or was a great leader, and what makes them great?
While I was trying to figure out what my next business would be, I was a roofer for 10 years, hard physical labor, but I actually quite enjoyed it. And the guy that I worked for was a fantastic leader, and he taught me a lot about work ethic and about taking pride in the job you do. I always credit him with toughening me up a little bit.
I like it. I think that is a valuable thing to teach somebody, is really having pride in what you do.
Yeah.
So if you're going to splurge on something and you want to treat yourself a little bit, what's one thing that you might invest in a bit?
Gosh, I'm not a big splurger, to be honest. I think I'm a bit of a sports junkie, so I play a lot, not more playing than watching. And so I'm sore a lot. So I've been thinking maybe a cold plunge might make sense to help reduce some of the swelling and pain after sports, because I'm not as young as I used to be.
Yeah, I don't know that would be something I would splurge on, but it makes sense for what you do. So I know you get to travel for work. Which city are you most excited to visit, whether it's a client visit or going to a conference?
That's a tough one, because I've been to so many of the cities so many times that, some of the excitement wears off. So I would say the cities that I always enjoy visiting: Nashville, Austin, New York City, Chicago. Those are always fun cities to go to, I find.
I like it. I haven't been to New York City yet. My managing editor was surprised when he heard me say that on a podcast the other day.
Well, you might not like it. It's pretty small.
Oh, yeah, true. I'm more of a big city girl. So what's one book that you think everyone should read?
Oh, boy. So one book everyone should read. People won't like the books I read. I'm a geopolitics nerd, so I read like stuff that nobody wants to read. But a great book is A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. It's an epic book. That's one that I would recommend. The other one I would recommend is Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Oh, I've read that one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a really good one. Well, we'll link to them in the show notes. What is your best hack for creating balance and integration between your work life and your life?
I do a few things in that regard. One is I block 2 hours in the middle of every day for exercise, and I'm religious. I will not take any meetings in that time frame. That's a priority. And then the other thing I think is trying to let work exist around your life a little bit as opposed to dominate it.
I like that. More of an intentional, created balance.
Well, I mean, sometimes you might have a couple of spare hours on a Saturday. I might knock a few things out so I can maintain that 2 hours off, or maybe I want to take a little bit of time elsewhere. But I think we're really fortunate in that technology has untethered us from the office. And so if you've become goal oriented as opposed to time oriented, it's like, I need to get these tasks done. It's not that I need to be there for 8 hours. I think that's really how you can achieve better balance.
I like it. So as I mentioned, we'll be sure to link to everything we talked about today in the show notes. But my last question for you is, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share or ask of our listeners?
Nothing that I can immediately think of. I think that for me, what I would like listeners to take away from this is that the ethos of our company is literally, it's our sort of slogan that we say is this: strive to delight. We try to delight everybody in the Lemonade orbit, our customers, our staff, our partners, our vendors. And I think it's a great ethos to live by, not just from a corporate standpoint, but from an individual standpoint.
I like it. And it certainly makes sense to me why you align so well with credit unions.
Yeah, I think that's just true. That's true. Actually, they're very member focused. And I think that in that way, we're very well aligned.
Well, thank you again, John, for being on the show. For episodes like this one and for more across the credit union movement, visit CUInsight.com to read, explore, and subscribe. Stay well, and thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. We'll be back again next time.